Hi, welcome to part 2 of creating multi-hoop text. Hopefully you've already seen the first video, which is either going to be creating multi-hoop text with MasterWorks or creating multi-hoop text with Palette or PE Design. Let's get started. Okay, for this design I need a piece of fabric that is going to fit the entire project. So the first thing I want to do is I know that this project is going to be at least three hoopings long. So I'm going to start at the top. I want to make sure my fabric is long enough. So I'm going 1, 2, 3. Yeah, plus extra. That way I don't have to precisely measure. So the next thing I want to do is I want to prepare the fabric. And I like to use the Terreal Magic spray in order to stiffen the fabric. It makes it a little stiffer. If you don't have Terreal Magic, then what you want to do is spray your fabric 3 times on each side with a light coating of spray starch. So I've already done that. And the stabilizer I'm planning to use is called Aquaset or Hydroset or something like that. It has a water-based adhesive, so it'll stick to the fabric. You don't necessarily have to use this, but when you're hooping 3 times, it's nice to have one piece of stabilizer that you deal with. So I'm going to lightly spray it, and you're going to spray the shiny side. Just lightly spray it and sort of, you don't want to drench it. You want to lightly spray it and distribute the water over the adhesive. And usually, I'll put my fabric down. And I will apply this down the center and just press it in place. And get it relatively straight. Turn it around, smooth out all the wrinkles. And see, now you don't have to apply this stabilizer and fight with it anymore. It's done. So anytime I do a multi-hooping design, then I like to put one piece of fabric or one piece of stabilizer behind the fabric. Oh yes, if you have a larger hoop that this is not actually wide enough to fit your hoop the whole way, you can actually piece it. You can put 2 pieces together and overlap this on the edge and just wet this edge really good, and then it'll stick together. And I really like this stabilizer. It comes in either a tearaway or a cutaway. I'm using the tearaway version today. So you can let this dry, or you can press it dry with an iron, which is what I'm going to do. Okay, now I've pressed this dry. It's good and dry, so I'm going to put a line down the center. And I'm going to use this friction marker because it comes out easily with heat. And this is the only marking I'm using, is right down the middle. Okay, now I'm ready to hoop this. So, I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to lay the bottom of the hoop underneath of the fabric, or sort of slide it down a little bit. I want this to be the top, so I'm going to put an arrow so that I don't accidentally hoop things backwards the second time I hoop. If you look at your hoop, you'll notice at the top, you can't see it here, but there are 2 little diamonds, or two little triangles right here. And so does the bottom, so does the top of your hoop. You can feel it, but right at the top right here is a little triangle. So I'm going to match those up. Okay, I'm going to line this so that this axis right here in the middle is going right along this line. So I place that there. I'm going to put it over top of my hoop. And I'm going to hold this. And I just give it a little tug right here so that it stays nice and straight. And this line is perfectly aligned with the marking that I made before, the center axis. And then I'm going to loosen my hoop. Might help to do that. And make sure I don't have the hoop upside down. We will not discuss how many times I've done that. Okay, got this at the top, and I am going to put 2 corners in. So I have two corners right here. You can't really see it, but these two corners are nested inside the back of the hoop. I'm going to push down with my thumbs. I want to keep it aligned so everything's still aligned. Push the bottom into the top and then just put your hoop in. Just press it down and you can see, you can't see that alignment marking at all. It's perfectly aligned. Okay, I'm going to countersink my top hoop into the bottom hoop so that I have a little tiny lip right here. And now this is ready to stitch out. And I can double check it and see everything is perfectly aligned, and now we're ready to go to the sewing machine. Okay, I've loaded the design on my machine, and it's the top half that I'm starting with. And I've loaded the hoop into my machine. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is make sure that I am starting all the way as much as I can go to this side, to the right side of the hoop, because this is my top. And I want to start with the needle starting right on that line somewhere. So I'm going to come to the machine and I'm going to check my needle drop. And it is exactly in the center. Okay, I'm threaded and ready to go. And here it goes. And I will stitch this off camera because this is going to take 21 minutes to stitch. Okay, you see the last thing it stitched was this reference line, and I stitched it in red. So now we're ready to do the second hooping. Pop this out. Smooth it out. Now this time when you hoop it, I'll put this grid back in. You want this red line to be just inside of this grid, this gridded area, because this is your sewing area. If you were to put it here, it would not sew correctly, so you want this just inside. Oh, by the way, this little mark is not necessarily the center of the hooping, so I'm going to put this right there on the line to this. That is the center of my hoop. And I am going to, again, hoop this in the same direction. You can see this. That just inside the line, and I'm making sure that this vertical axis is going right across the hoop, as straight as I can get this. Again, I'll push with my thumbs and push the bottom into the top. And there we go. That way, no shifting. Okay, back to the machine, and we'll do the second, we'll stitch the second hooping. Okay, now I've got the second hooping on the machine, and I want to check to make sure that I've got the placement correct. So I'm going to come down to this little icon that has a little needle in a box and press it. And it's showing that my needle position is in the center of the design. I want to move it to the right hand center. Okay, now I'm going to look very closely at the hoop. And if I drop my needle, I am even with the top stitch of that little red line that's showing the top of it. Raise my needle, and I will check the right side, the top. Again, drop my needle. Okay, it's about even. Check the bottom. And again, this is even with the top bar on that reference line. I'm going to go back to the center here. Now I know the position is high enough right here, so that is the top of that line. Now I want to go to the machine here. I want to do a tracing here, so actually I want to trace on that line, that red line, without stitching it. So I'm going to go plus or minus. I'm going to go ahead 10 stitches. And I'm going to use the advancement on these stitches to check these lines. So when I look at this, what I want to do is make sure that this stitching line is right here. So I'm going to go my needle down, and yes, it is. It's right on that line, so I know I've got that position correct. So now I need to know, do I have it positioned center properly here? So I'm going to go keep hitting plus 10. Okay, there's the top of that line, and it's touching right at the top of that little reference point on the L. Okay, I'm going to advance 10 more and 10 more till I get to the other side. Oop, too far. I went too far here. There. Now I'm at the top, and see, I've got it right on the money. In fact, I think I could probably shift this one little click that way. It's going to take it back to 0, and then just move it this way. I went and moved it this way, just a tad. Okay, now I feel fairly confident that that is right in the line of stitching. And usually at this point, I'm going to start stitching, but I'm going to go ahead and remove this red line because I don't want to stitch into it. I want it to just disappear. At least I'm going to take it out of the area that we're stitching. And then we'll continue stitching. So I'll remove this. It's easier to do it while it's not in the hoop. That way that red line won't get caught in the stitching and I have to pick it out later. Okay, now I have removed the reference line, and I'm just going to skip over the next color and go on. I'm not going to actually stitch the first reference line, the first color stop, because I know it matches. I just manually did it one by one, and it's just fine. So now I'm just going to go ahead and finish stitching the second hooping. Stitched out the second one, and look how nice it turned out. So what we're going to do is now we're going to do the third and final hooping, and it actually goes just like it did for the second hooping. So what I'm going to do is put my template in my hoop so that I read the letters ABC. I want this line to be just inside the stitching line. Or I want this just inside to be inside my sewing area. So therefore, when I set this up, I want this to be just inside. I don't know if you can see that really well. There we go. See, I want that just inside that line. Then I'm going to make sure that this, see that vertical line that I used, that green line that I used all around my fabric? I'm going to set that right in the middle so that's as straight as I can possibly get that. And I'm going to hoop it. Bring it over here. 2 top ends. Make sure my line is still matched up. Still straight. There we go. Take to the corners while everything is straight. Push bottom into top. And then press that hoop down into place. There we go. And now it's hooped perfectly. If you can see that really well. Okay, now I'm going to go to the machine, and we'll stitch out the last part of this poem. And I need to check the placement. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to here. And first of all, I'm going to check to make sure that I'm in my center. And I am. So I'm going to check it with I'm going to check this with this reference line. So I'm going to go plus or minus, and my needle needs to be up. I'm going to go plus or minus to where I'm seeing the red reference line. And I'm going to take a couple stitches into it. And notice that it is, let's see if I can get this really close. Here we go. Notice that that needle is right on that reference line. Raise it and go check. I'm going to check the angles. So I'm going to go ahead until that should be the top of the line. And it is. See, it's the little hook that goes up. It's right at the top of that. So I'm going to continue on down till we get to the other side. And it's at the top. So I'll check. It is really close. It's about 1/2 millimeter off, but you know what? That's close enough. So now I'm going to advance here to the next. I'm not even going to stitch out that reference line. Not the second time. Although, before I stitch, I'm going to take the hoop off of the machine and remove this basting stitch, or this reference line stitch, because I don't want to stitch over top of it. It's not going to look very good. So I'll be right back. Okay, now I have removed the reference line, so I won't be stitching over top of it. Being that it's red, when I go to pick out the stitches, pick it out after I had stitched it, they'd be caught in the lettering, and I really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to thread the machine with black thread. And one tip that I want to tell you, if for some reason your bobbin thread keeps coming up to the top and you keep seeing little white specks, sometimes it's just easier to just put the same color thread in the bobbin and you'll have fewer issues. Okay, here we go. And now we'll continue stitching. This should be the end of it. Okay, we're all finished stitching. It's ready to be removed from the hoop. I'll give it a good pressing, and I will turn it into a wall hanging or whatever. To remove this stabilizer, all you need to do is spritz it with some water and it will remove rather easily. If you didn't put too much water on, it's very easy to remove. Otherwise you might have to soak it. If you're going to use this as a wall hanging, you may not even have to remove the stabilizer. Okay, we're all finished. If you have any questions or comments, please give us a call at Attic Treasures or So Easy Sewing in Occoquan, Virginia. Our phone number is 703-490-1536. Thank you for watching, and come back again next month where we have some more videos. Bye.